Everybody's talking about dual forms or poppets or reverse forms. I'm going to show you the difference today between sculpted nails and dual forms. I'm Susie. Let's check out the pros and cons of both. Let's get started. So when you're sculpting, you use a form or you can use a tip, but you custom fit the form or the tip to the person's nail. Everybody's nails are shaped so very, very different. So sculpting is very custom made. Doing the dual forms is not so much custom made. You've got a bunch of selection to choose from, and you've got to fit the one to fit the nail as close as you possibly can. So it's not going to be custom made. So this is a number 5, and I'm doing this finger here, let's say. So you can see it's a little wider than my cuticle. I don't know if you can see that. You can see it's a little bit chunky on the sides there. My nail is a little bit more of an oval, and this is a bit more of a square edge. See that? And what we want to make sure is if you turn it to the side, when you're fitting your form, you want to make sure that it definitely goes to the sides. Okay, you see that side? It looks like that one does. So that's a number 5. I'm going to show you a 4 and how it is too small. If I fit the 4 to this side when it's coming down, if I look at it, it's too shy on that side, right? So the 4 is not going to fit that. Now here's a 6. I just want to show you a little bit bigger, 4, 5, and 6. Being the 5 looks like it's going to fit. This one's a little too big, and you can see it would completely kind of go over my skin, and that's not what we want. So that guy's too big. I'm going to get rid of him. Actually, I'm going to show it to the next finger. Okay, we'll just move these guys out of the way. Okay, so that's what I'm going to use. I think I decided on the 5. Yeah, the 4 was a little too tight. Okay. Now the trick if you're doing these, whether you're using gel or acrylic or no matter what product you're using, you want to make sure that the cuticle area is quite thin. So when you lay it down, you want the cuticle to be very thin. That's the great thing about sculpting, is you can really focus on that. Lay it right in there. I do want to make sure it comes right up from the sides. Now when you're working with acrylic, this is what makes it tough when you're working with acrylic, is you really do got to know your liquid to powder ratio. And you only have a certain amount of time to work with the acrylic to get it placed onto the form. That's why working with acrylic does make this a little more difficult. There's a little sparkle in there. That's why I say if you're using the dual form system, you're probably better off with the gel or a gel with a thicker viscosity. So that acrylic laid right in there, but that to me is not thick enough because we need to have more structure in there. But that might not be conveyed when you start using these. So that's only the knowledge of the experience that I have. So I'm going to put another bead in there. So what I'm talking about is that arch point. I'm trying to get enough in there for the arch point. Now there is a bit of an issue when you're using acrylic. There's only a certain amount of time you really do have. It's not like a gel where you can wait as long as you want. You don't have a lot of time because you've got to get this on before it cures because you want it to shape around to the natural nail. So I'm going to take this now. So it's very thin at the cuticle. That's really important. And we're going to flip this over. We're going to put it on the finger. Now we don't have to cure this into the light because this is acrylic. Acrylic takes about 45 to 60, up to 90 seconds to cure enough to be able to pop this guy off. Now see, already I'm just very concerned you can't get it as close to the cuticle as you want. Now, not to say that you wouldn't be for someone else, because these are all shaped different and my fingers shaped very different than what maybe all these have to offer. And that is the difference between sculpted. When I do the sculpted, I can get it right up there. As a matter of fact, let's just go on to that now so I can show you. So here's the difference between that form and this form. This is a paper form. And the difference is I can mold and shape. I can even cut it in here to custom shape it. And having said that, I can also file this. If you're using this system as a beginner, you may not know all those things, right? So I'm going to custom fit this form into my nail. Really fit that in there. There we go, it's done. So while that one's curing, I'll just show you how we're custom doing this in comparison. When you're getting acrylic and the artist knows what they're doing, they have some experience, the idea is they're trying to, you know how we tried to make it smooth in there? That's what we're doing here too. We are applying this acrylic to be as smooth transition without touching the skin. We want to make the acrylic very, very smooth. This is also where you must have your liquid to powder ratio down pretty good. The more you do have your liquid to powder ratio down, the easier this part is. And that goes if you're using the dual form or if you're using the paper form. Having your liquid to powder ratio is crucial for both of those. Now I'm going to finish sculpting this. Now remember I put a little bead inside the plastic to create more of an arch? I'm doing that now here. But I can see it a little bit better. I have a bit more of a educated guess, you might say. I can see it much clearer to see exactly where this arch needs to be. When I'm using the dual form, I can't really see that because it's separated from the nail. Here, I can see exactly where my arch is needed. With some experience, when you're building the nail, you can check the nail from all sides and all angles to see if it's exactly where you want it. If you need any thickness anywhere, you can simply add. The only problem with the dual form is you don't have that opportunity. You don't have that chance. It should have been already done by the time we added. But again, it's really hard to know where it might have to be if it's not exactly attached to the nail. Therefore, sort of admitting the whole custom design factor. Okay. Just gonna put a tiny bit more in here. Do an almond and make sure that it's really happy right in there. Okay, so I can really examine that nail and decide if I'm really happy with the way it is. That looks pretty good. I'm just going to smooth that transition of the second bead that I put there. So you can see I really sculpted that acrylic custom design to this person's nail. I specifically built it, well, which is my nail, of course, but I'm talking as if it's a client. So the poppet here should be dry. So let's pinch it up a little bit, give it a little bit of a twist. Voila, there it comes. Now there's the beauty of the quick dual form. See how smooth that is? It's wonderful. So if you're not knowing how to sculpt, this is a great way to build a nail. Okay, so underneath, it's a bit bumpy and a bit rough, but if you don't really know how to sculpt that well, better to have the bumpiness under there than on top, right? But if you know how to do nails, you might have a drill, you'll know the experience with the drill, you could file under there and make that smooth. I will note, if you look around the cuticle, look at it. Now I did that pretty thin around the cuticle on that tip, but it still is a bit of a ledge and it even is a little not quite as attached. Because the form didn't fit me perfectly because it's not custom made, I couldn't fit it all the way down because it was bumping into the sides. So there is a little bit of a space there, okay? Whereas the acrylic, with some sculpting knowledge, I was able to get it seamlessly right to the cuticle. You can see it's totally seamless. However, with the acrylic, it's not smooth on the surface as this appears to be finished, you might say. It just feels really smooth. So you can see this surface isn't as smooth as this one. And that's why they call these reverse forms. Because when I take this off, if I flip it underneath, I don't know if you can see how shiny it is? That's the same smoothness as I'm feeling on top of here. Hence reverse form, right? Okay, so let me get these out of the way because I'm going to file and I don't want any dust in there. Now, this is the beauty of the dual form. The surface is done. You don't have to touch it. You're just shaping it. That's all we're doing. We're just shaping the outside. Now, in this case, I'm just going to do an almond. Now for me, being a person who sculpts, it's tough for me to just leave it at that. I can do that though. I can just leave it at that. Now remember, I needed a little extra in there to make sure that it's going to have the structure. And that's what I have on top. I feel the structure there is actually pretty good. I like that. But it does sacrifice a little bit. I have to have it a little bit thicker. When I look down the barrel of it, I want it to be a little bit more shaped, but that's where my sculpting experience comes in. I want to make it a little bit more bottlenose, but only because I have that experience knowledge. But in this case, I'm not going to do that because then I'm sculpting the top and sort of defeating the whole purpose of the dual form, which is to avoid any extra work like that. These are basically just a really neat tip you can put on it and just be done with it, right? So I'm going to leave that because that's how they're meant to be. I'm just going to file it up for the aesthetic value of the shape. So when you look down on it this way, it looks amazing. I love it. Okay, now when it comes to the sculpted one, I'm going to use my skills and I'm going to sculpt it the way that I want. And I'm going to spend more time doing that simply because I want to sculpt this and make it look, perfect. But I want to note, look at the cuticle area. It's absolutely perfect. Having said that, that takes quite some time to perfect that. You really got to know how to work acrylic. And that just comes with experience. But I'm just comparing the experienced sculpted nail with the dual form, just so you can see the difference. Now here's where sculpting comes in. I'm going to show you the difference. Okay, let me finish it up, compare it to the other one. Okay, let's get a little bit of oil on the cuticles. Okay, I'm gonna rub that in there. Always great to put oil on after everything's so dusty. So we are comparing a quick dual form to an actual sculpted nail with some experience. With the sculpted, you should have experience for it to look good. And with this, you don't need as much if you're just gonna go with a quick nail. So here's the difference. So there was a bit of a gap between the natural nail and the acrylic that went on there. And before I got the oil in there, the oil kind of made it a little bit wetter, so it's harder to tell the lifted spots. But there was a little bit of a lifted area in here. Now, I could have filed that down, but then I would have had to file the whole thing, hence ruining the whole concept of dual forms, which is leaving a smooth finish without touching it. Once you get into touching it, then you'll start to see all the tools you have to have for all that. And if I started filing that little lifted area, it would have taken it out and it would have been a bit of a drop. And then when you put polish on, you're really going to see that drop. So I kind of don't want to touch it because I don't want to ruin the look of the polish. And I don't want to get into that because this is supposed to be just a quick nail. Now this one here, the one that I sculpted, just the cuticle area alone, you can see how close it is. The reason why that's great is because when my clients come back in 4 to 5, 6 weeks later, that grow out is very smooth transition. And they might not even notice it's growing out so much because it's so smooth. This nail here, the sacrifice you have with a quick nail like that, you're going to have a bit of a lip and it can get caught in your hair. It can lift this way, all sorts of unfortunate things can happen, but that's what you get with a really quick nail. So I'm going to turn it sideways now and show you some things sideways. Now I will say the dual form tip, the arch is actually quite nice. I'm quite happy with that, but I didn't press it too far down. So it actually is creating quite a nice arch and I quite like that. It's quite pretty. So with my arch that I built, that I take years in experience of learning, that's actually quite nice too. I've done a really good job. Okay. So now I'm going to flip it underneath. Now it's hard to see because this is totally clear and the camera can't quite pick it up, but this underneath here is shiny. It's actually going in a groove. It's actually cupping inward, which is good because I was able to custom design that by getting the form right up in there. When I took the paper form out, it leaves a nice inside groove, how a natural nail would be when it grows out. Unfortunately, because of the arch that I wanted to try to create with the dual form, you can see, and maybe you can't see, this is very thick in here. There is no natural groove. If I took a drill right now and filed it out, I would take a lot out. That's one thing we cannot get with these. We can't get that natural shape, custom shape to their finger. So that is quite a thick groove in there. And the reason why I'm not filing it out, I can file it. I can take anything and make it look nice, but I'm not doing it because I'm trying to show you what the dual form is capable of. So if you were likely to do that, you could take a drill and file it all out. So one other thing I want to say, when you look sideways, sometimes you can see the underside even kind of poking through. You see that kind of bulge? That's acrylic I'm up against right there. See, that's bulging out. If you look at the other finger, my cuticle stick disappears right inside there. That's because it's got a nice arch. But this is not. Now, it is safe to say they still look beautiful from the top side. Not many people are going to look at your nails under that. So if you are trying the dual form, that's a sacrifice you're going to have to make just to have the quick nail. So if you look down the barrel of it, I call it like the dolphin nose when I'm doing the almond shape. This is where the expertise comes in. If you take a look, and I'll put my finger right over top, can you see how even and coming in narrow that is coming in at? See that? I'm going to put my finger on this one and you can see how much thicker it is. You can even see the underside bulking through, right? And you don't get that nice dolphin shape as that I'm talking about on the surface because we're not sculpting the top. We're just leaving the top because it's got that smooth finish that we don't have to touch it, right? But these are the sacrifices that we make. We're not going to have that streamlined nail that we can sculpt it in a 3D fashion because we're not touching the top. So it's a great way to get a new set on if you want to do just a quick way to do your nails without a whole lot of expertise to it. What happens when you need a fill? The expertise that you need to prepare that nail and then fill the nail, you can't, these are not designed for fills. These are just designed for the first set. So that's where you can run into a bit of trouble. You're going to have to learn the skill at some point if you want to keep up your nails. Okay, so just to complete these, I'm going to polish them because I still think there might be a few more things that we can take a look at after the polish is put on. Okay, we're going to use Good Morning Kit by Mosaic. So this is a gel paint. And before I put the gel paint on, remove the oil with an acetone. Acetone removes all oils. It's excellent. I put down a clear layer first because gel paint seems to perform better on a smooth, clear layer. Gel paint picks up any little mark, so the coat of gel paint just makes it very, very smooth. Okay, so I'm just going to use this as a bit of a rest. Keep my hand nice and steady. So sometimes this is where it can be a bit of a problem. But again, if you're looking really close and you're really picky, like I would be, I can't get as close to this cuticle as I would like to. And there is a bit of a lift, like a tiny bit of a ridge, I should say. And it doesn't want you to go past that ridge. And if I go past that ridge, it's gonna look really terrible. So you can sort of see the edginess of it. It's not a very smooth transition. As you can see, this one will be. See how smooth that is in comparison? I can try to take more of it out because it's kind of bulking up in there. You can see the little ledge there, eh? So if I go past the ledge, it's going to settle in on my natural nail, and that's really going to look bad. So this is a much, much smoother transition, only because I can get really close. Okay, so I'm going to nuke those, and it's 30 seconds in between every layer. Okay, so if I turn the nails this way, can you see that? Where you can see, I probably should have used a black color or a darker color. You can see where the edge of it stops and how thick it is underneath, right? And see how smooth and has a nice little indented pocket in there, very natural shape, whereas this has that thickness underneath. Now, you could have put the form there, underneath there, and then you could have tried to move it out, but I tried that and it moves the form back a bit. And that can create like a pocket, like a pothole on the top of your nail. So again, you can do that, but those are more advanced skills, especially if you're working with acrylic. So if we're trying to get the quickest nail possible, I'm just saying that those are the things you have to sacrifice when you're using the dual form kit. So let's do the second coat. Okay, so I'm just actually going to finish this up and then we'll take a look at the reveal shots. Well, I hope that helps clear up any confusion and shows the difference between the dual forms, poppets or reverse forms, comparison to an acrylic skilled sculpted nail. Whatever nail you choose to decide to do, just have fun. And I'll see you in my next video.